Paying too much in taxes might be one of the most expensive blind spots in your retirement plan. Most Canadians assume once they stop working that their tax bill shrinks. But here's the reality. Without a strategy, you could end up paying more in retirement than you ever did while earning a paycheck. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how wealthy Canadians are legally reducing their tax burden, often by tens of thousands of dollars. I have spent years helping Canadians who have done everything right, saving diligently, investing wisely, but now face a challenge that nobody warned them about, keeping more of what they actually built. My name is Caton St. Hilaire. I'm an investment advisor at 160 Wealth, and what I'm about to show you are the strategies that separate the retirees who hand the CRA a fortune from those who only pay what they legally owe. Let's get into it. Let us start with the trap that catches most retirees completely off guard. Your employment income disappears when you retire, yes, but look at what replaces it. CPP, OAS, RRIF withdrawals, pension income, maybe rental income, or investment gains. Stack those together, and many retirees land in the same bracket they were in while they were working, sometimes higher. And then age 71 hits. The government forces you to convert your RRSP into a RRIF. Withdrawals become mandatory whether you need the money or not. Those forced withdrawals pile onto everything else, and suddenly you're not just paying more tax, you're triggering OAS clawbacks. For 2026, the clawback threshold sits at approximately $95,323. Every dollar above that line costs you 15 cents in OAS benefit until it disappears entirely. That is a 15% recovery tax stacked directly on top of your marginal rate. For some Canadians, the effective rate in retirement climbs past 50%. You spent decades building that money, and the government has a very efficient plan for collecting a large portion of it. Here's what that actually looks like. David is 63 and Susan is 61. They have about 1.8 million, most of it locked in RSPs. By every measure, they're set. Then we ran their projections into the default plan. Wait until 71, let the RSP compound, and then start withdrawing. The numbers were alarming. Minimum RRIF withdrawals at age 71 start at 5.28%. On 2 million, that's over 100,000 in forced income from the RRIF alone. Add CPP and OAS for both spouses, and suddenly they're reporting over 150,000 in taxable income. OAS clawback kicks in. They've jumped from an expected low tax retirement into one of the highest tax brackets, paying more in tax in retirement than they ever did while they were working. Their neighbors with an identical net worth, but a different account structure, pay tens of thousands less every single year. Same wealth, completely different outcome. The only difference is the strategy. Here's what we did instead. We started drawing the RSP immediately between 63 and 70, intentionally filling lower tax brackets during their lowest income years. We moved the after-tax proceeds into their TFSAs, building a completely tax-free reserve to draw from strategically later. We structured pension income splitting once David turned 65. We repositioned their non-registered investments to favor capital gains and eligible Canadian dividends over interest income. Same retirement lifestyle, same spending, but dramatically lower taxes and full OAS for both spouses well into their 80s. David told me he wished somebody had told him this 10 years earlier. The math was available the whole time. It just needed a plan. There are 4 levers that made this possible, and they're available to any Canadian who uses them before the default rules takes the choice away. The first lever is strategic RSP withdrawals before age 71. The window between retirement and when CPP, OAS, and forced RRIF withdrawals all stack up is your lowest income period, and it is the best tax planning opportunity most Canadians will ever have. Drawing down your RSP intentionally during those years, filling the lower tax brackets on purpose, means you pay some tax now at a manageable rate, instead of far more later when you have no control over the timing. Most people are told to leave their RSPs untouched for as long as possible. For many retirees, that is one of the most expensive pieces of advice that they'll ever follow. The second lever is your TFSA, and most Canadians aren't even using it correctly. TFSA withdrawals do not count as income, they do not trigger OAS clawbacks, and they do not push you into a higher tax bracket. If you need 20,000 extra in a given year, the difference between pulling that from a RRIF versus a TFSA could be the difference between keeping your full OAS and watching thousands disappear to the clawback. Wealthy Canadians do not treat the TFSA as an emergency fund. They treat it as a precision tool to control exactly how much taxable income they report each year. The third lever is income splitting. If one spouse has significantly more retirement income than the other, then you're almost certainly paying more tax than necessary as a household. Pension income splitting lets you allocate up to 50% of eligible pension income into your lower income spouse's tax bracket, pulling more income out of a high tax bracket into a low one. Once you're 65, RRIF income qualifies for that. CPP pension sharing is another option if both spouses contributed during their working years. And spousal RSPs, if set up years in advance, create a more balanced RRIF income for both spouses down the road. The goal is to equalize income so neither of you is sitting in an unnecessarily high tax bracket alone. The fourth lever is asset location. And this is where many Canadians bleed money without ever realizing it. 50% of capital gains are included in taxable income, effectively taxed at half your marginal rate. Eligible dividends from Canadian public corporations come with a dividend tax credit that meaningfully reduces what you owe. Interest income, by contrast, is fully taxable at your marginal rate. Two portfolios generating identical total returns produce dramatically different tax outcomes depending on what type of income they generate and which account holds them. Placing the right investments in the right accounts, maximizing tax-free and tax-preferred income can make a substantial difference over a 25-year retirement. Deferral feels like winning, but deferral is not the same as avoidance. In many cases, Canadians who defer everything end up paying more over the lifetime than those who manage their tax brackets deliberately along the way. The question is never whether you'll pay tax on your registered accounts. The question is what rate you'll pay and whether that decision is yours or the government's. If you're watching this and realizing that your account might not be set up for tax efficiency, you're not alone. This is exactly the type of planning that we do at 160 Wealth. If you want help building a withdrawal strategy designed around your specific situation, I've put a link in the description below to book a time with me. Paying less tax in retirement is not about loopholes or aggressive schemes. It's about understanding how the system works and positioning yourself before the deadlines take that flexibility away. The retirees who keep the most are not necessarily the ones who save the most. They're the ones who had a plan before the rules made one for them. If you want to see what a tax-efficient withdrawal plan would look like for your specific situation, book a time with me. The link is in the description below. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.